Hello and welcome to Monday Morning Detective, the podcast. I'm your host, Gino Scala, and this is episode number 49. Now, I must preface this by telling you I'm a little bit under the weather. I'm in immense pain right now. I have several broken ribs up in my upper torso, near my arm, after a fall the other evening. And between the ribs and the cartilage damage in between the rib cage, the ribs of the rib cage, as well as my sternum, it's difficult to breathe. But in any event, we press on, and today we're going to discuss the homicide of Mary Elizabeth Isbell, Isbell, or Isbell, right here in Alabama. She is from the area called Fort Payne. Now, you may be familiar with Fort Payne, as it is the town where the band, the country band, Alabama, was founded. One of the most successful bands of all time. And back in December of 2021, Miss Isbell's ex-husband called the police and reported her missing. The reason was because it was December 27th, and he had not heard from his ex-wife, and she did not call her son, who was staying with the husband. Did not call the son for Christmas, or see the son for Christmas. So they reported her missing, and in 2 years they developed very little information. From what I gather, she'd been staying with a gentleman by the name of Stephen Wright, and as a result, she also went by the name Beth Wright, even though they were not married. Steve Wright was a drug user, drug dealer, and small-time crook. He was eventually arrested in Florida for theft, and soon after that, Mary Elizabeth was basically roaming the streets. Now, sadly coincidental, my daughter's name is Mary Elizabeth, so that's one reason why I took interest in this story, as well as the fact that it happened in our backyard. Fort Payne is about 90 miles northeast of Birmingham, so it's about halfway between Huntsville, where I am, and Birmingham, which is south of us. So, of course, she was somewhat homeless, or staying where she can, and that generally only leads to trouble. It also makes me suspect that this poor girl, Mary Elizabeth, who is, from the photos, she's very attractive. Fell on some hard times, and it's probably, I think in the end, even though we don't know yet, I think in the end we're going to find out this is crystal meth related, drug related, and the crime, the murder, is probably a drug related crime. In any event, one of the suspects, to backtrack, after 2 years of investigating, and they kind of narrowed down an area in which they believed she was missing, or at least buried, which was a national preserve, forest preserve, down in that area. in Fort Payne. And just like any wooded area, it's a great place to hide a body, bury a body, etc. Well, somebody either kidnapped Mary Elizabeth or lured her to this location where she was then thrown from a cliff. Now, after 2 years and many searches, ground searches, air searches, dog searches, and could not find any evidence of Mary Elizabeth, either potential murder or her body, they received a tip. And from that tip, they located the body at the bottom of this cliff. From that point, they quickly arrested two individuals who happened to be a mother and daughter, shockingly enough. Loretta K. Carr, C-A-R-R, was arrested. She was 45. And her young daughter, Jessie Eden Kelly, was arrested out of Missouri, I believe. Loretta was found in Pennsylvania. Their relationship with Mary Elizabeth is unknown at this time. I suspect we're going to find that Loretta K. Carr potentially was the drug dealer. And there may be money owed by either Stephen Wright, who is in jail, or Mary Elizabeth Isbell, who is now deceased. I think that's how it's going to play out. I don't think there's a sex angle to this because of the mother-daughter situation. I think mother called daughter, who is probably a drug dealer in herself. I think she ran to Missouri while Loretta ran to Pennsylvania, but I think they're both live down here in Alabama. And they have both been arrested and charged with capital murder. So, it's a very sad story. You'll see the pictures as they're going to be included in this video. The pictures of the victim, very, very attractive. But one of the last pictures shows her very gaunt, which to me is an indication of crystal meth. And there are earlier pictures of the suspect, Loretta Carr, that she actually took at the scene of the crime, the cliff. But not at the time of the crime. And you'll see the changes in Miss Carr from the picture that she posted on Facebook at the cliff to her arrest photo where she looks like a glam rocker, a male glam rocker from the 80s. So, her daughter, Jessie Eden Kelly, is in her early 20s, and she looks very attractive as well, and so forth. Sadly, ironic, Mary Elizabeth's body, her remains, her skeletal remains, were found on what would have been her 39th birthday. So she was merely 37 at the time of this murder. There's not a lot of definitive information out there. I checked quite extensively. Very few photos, very few facts surrounding the case. They're quite tight-lipped about it, which leads me to believe that perhaps they have undercover officers involved, and that may have been where the tip came from. They heard or saw things, learned things, or if not an undercover officer, they probably have a what we call a CI, a confidential informant. That's usually someone with a drug past who is infiltrating or part of this, what I believe to be a drug circle. So this is a highly unusual case, death by being thrown from a cliff, and it has made news all the way out in the United Kingdom. So it is quite unique. Still, it's very sad, and it's very sad for me in the sense that it takes place in Alabama, and I love Alabama, but we're not above these violent crimes. We have the same problems in Alabama as all other states do. And so if you have anything you'd like to add to this particular episode, feel free to comment. And that'll be it for episode 49 of Monday Morning Detective, the podcast. And we'll see you next time, okay? Have a wonderful day.